Let's shift to a different context now. I think I'll bring in Rajiv here. Rajiv from Anand. Now, legal services. I don't know whether you talk about that in that perspective. Very different perspective to whatever is happening. How did you guys, from that perspective, handle all of this?
Sure. Thanks, Sandeep, for that. Lawyers are very, very traditional in the country, and especially the more successful ones are the ones who are, older in age and still rely on paper and documents and all of that. I wouldn't fault them for that because of the nature of their work. They have to go through hordes of documents, and despite all the advances in technology, it doesn't make it very easy or facilitate, browsing through tons and tons of paper and documents of disparate sets. However, what has been happening under the hood is that a lot of digitalization and technology has been brought into the works, but the adoption has just not happened. That is industry-wide. Our case was slightly different. So we started a dry run of working from home a week or 2 weeks before the lockdown actually got announced, because we saw, I wouldn't say we saw it coming in January, but definitely in the beginning of March, we saw it coming. Europe was in a bad shape. And since it flew all the way from, China to the rest of Asia and to Europe and to the Americas, we knew that, given the nature of our country and our sense of, hygiene and lack of social distancing, we will not be immune. So we were prepared for that. Like, Madhu and Joseph and the others have mentioned, we ship desktops home. Our average work profile or worker profile is also, quite old in nature. The biggest benefit as far as, if any, to come out from the lockdown and the pandemic situation was change management. Because, all these years we've been investing in technology, in systems, but the adoption just wasn't there. This situation left us with no choice at all. So the first thing that happened was there was complete adoption of everything that was in place. The second thing that happened subsequently was building on top of that and saying, okay, how can we move on-prem to cloud? And we've done a lot of that. The third thing that happened was, people started getting the feel of it. They got involved in projects. They said, okay, this is something that we have started understanding now. Can we play a role in this? Then we moved from SaaS models to PaaS models, and people started becoming citizen developers. And, once that started happening, then they said, okay, now we are not only just users of technology, but we are also able to create technology. And it's not as much of the rocket science as we thought. This is again in consonance with the worldwide trends. And I think on that note, there's a lot of right now, I wouldn't say friction, but a fine tension between the IT community and the users community. Because on the one hand, you have immense opportunities of citizen development, whether it is in the field of AI and data science, where it is the hottest right now, or even in terms of PaaS models, where people can literally just configure their business processes and put it up in the cloud, in a few hours or in a few minutes in some cases, right? So, those kind of things we've been seeing at our end. And that has been completely revolutionary and something that I would have always dreamt of, but, I wasn't prepared for. So those are some of the things that have been going on. As regards, CX itself, I would say we look at from a legal services standpoint, because we are a professional services and we have a duty towards the society. We don't look at customer in the conventional corporate sort of way. In fact, for many, many years, the legal services industry refused to believe that they were, in a business. Even today, they don't, many of them. So for us, it is all about the stakeholders, whether it is, the judiciary, or whether it is our clients, or whether it is our employees, or whether it is even our competitors. We would call them associates, but, the traditional world would call them competitors. So in that sense, we are looking at customer experience as stakeholder experience. And that becomes even more complex because we're dealing with all aspects of our functions, not just operations and sales. So that brings an additional dimension of complexity. So, those are some of the things from our vantage point.
Fantastic. I mean, it's good to know, and it's great to know that even if not for the entire legal industry, at least your firm is moving towards a much stronger digital platform, and that's good to know.
Yeah, in fact, as Joseph mentioned, about intellectual property, we specialize in IP, and we've been doing that. We are a young organization, only half of what Madhu's organization is. So his is 180 years old, we are 90 plus years old. So we've been doing that for a long time, and we we've seen so many stories of people, losing out their shirt and businesses because of IP
Yeah.
related issues. And
Yeah.
obviously we have a fiduciary duty to them to, keep it as safe as possible. So that's very,
Right.
very high on our agenda.
Awesome. Thanks, Rajiv, for that.
So just to butt in, since Vivek spoke about AI, we did a AI-based project a couple of years ago, actually, well before its time, around broadly what you would call CX, essentially to optimize social media and content marketing and content generation based on what users reacted to it. So it was classical ML, but based on a very, very different data set. And what we got into the mix and why it was successful was because we were able to also use ML classifiers to map the emotions that our content would generate. So that was 2 years ago, well ahead of its time. I thought it would be out of place today, so I didn't mention it. But very valid point, Vivek. I think that is the future. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
Thanks, Rajiv. Actually, quite impressed that a legal services firm has gone so ahead in their digital transformation journey. I think somebody should do a use case about what you guys do at Anand.